Hi, and welcome to another installment of Math Basics, Mr. Besh. Today we're going to identify and simplify ratios. First and foremost, let's get to the definition. A ratio is a relative size of two quantities expressed as a quotient of one divided by the other. I know what you're saying. What? In reality, simplified terms, a ratio uses division to compare two quantities. A lot of times they can express ratios in three simple different ways. The most common and useful way to express a ratio is using a fraction. Sometimes in books and literature you see expressed as something like this, the two numbers separated by the word 2, and also sometimes you see it like this, separated by a colon. No matter what, they all represent the exact same thing, and by default what I would recommend is always take your ratio and represent it as a fraction. Fractions are very useful. Notice ratios can be compared. I can determine which ratio is bigger by using a technique referred to as cross-multiplying. Notice my two ratios. I have 14 to 4 and 21 to 8. The first thing I do is make them both fractions. Taking the first number stays on top, the second number goes on the bottom, like you see here. The next thing that I got to do is the technique cross-multiplying works like this. I take the top of the first fraction, the numerator, 14, and multiply it by the denominator of the second fraction, which is 8. 14 times 8 gives me 112. The number 112 represents the first fraction, 14 over 4. I then do the same step, but on the opposite side. 21 times 4 gives me 84, and 84 represents the second fraction, or ratio, 21 over 8. Now, 112 is definitely bigger than 84, so that means the ratio 14 to 4 is bigger than the ratio of 21 to 8. And this is how we can take two ratios and compare them and determine which of the two are bigger than the other. Last but not least, ratios with similar units need to have the same exact unit. So when I see a ratio represented like 9 months to 2 years, I need to write them both with the same exact label. It's a lot easier to take the bigger label like years and make it smaller. So then 9 months to 2 years would turn into 9 months to 24 months. Because I know 2 years, 1 year is 12 months, so 2 years would be 24 months. But the last thing that's very important that you have to pay attention to is that your ratio needs to be in lowest terms, simplified as best as possible. So you need to think of a number that goes into both 9 and 24. And I know what you were thinking, 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 24 divided by 3 makes 8. So my ratio in lowest terms, simplified and with the same unit, is represented as 3 months to 8 months. And this is how you work ratios. I hope you found this both informative and helpful.